All right, joining me now from New York is Tom O'Connor, who is a senior foreign policy writer at Newsweek. Tom, do you think Biden came out of this meeting with Putin looking strong?
Well, I think the meeting went largely as expected by both sides. Obviously, it was, as I predicted, it would be very straightforward. I think both men have delivered their message. I think typically, at this level, the leaders' level of meetings, there's not usually much decided right then and there. It's either decided beforehand or afterwards, and both sides have obviously passed this off to their officials. Now, whether those further talks will be constructive remains to be seen, but I think at the end of the day, Russia somewhat has an upper hand here because Russia has displayed that it is willing to use military force, even if it's in its own messaging, it's in response to something. The U.S. has said it's mostly resorting to economic measures and is not looking to put troops in Ukraine itself. So that is a fundamental difference here between the two sides that we should remember.
Yeah, and Putin has repeatedly said that Russia is not planning to attack Ukraine. But if it's not planning for an invasion, then what's the purpose of the military buildup on the border? Do you think this is about getting attention from the West, and has Putin achieved that?
Well, it's certainly gotten attention here in the West, and I think that Russia is certainly saying that it won't be the one to start that conflict, but it's not precluding that there will be a conflict, but it's saying that it would be started from the Ukrainian side. Perhaps the precursor there would be the movement of NATO or foreign troops. These are accusations that Russia's, completely is sort of repeated over time right now. But one thing I think we should note is that as we're paying attention to this very high level, the front of this issue, there does seem to be things going on the sidelines. And one of those things was today we saw the National Defense Spending Act, the latest version of it did not include sanctions on Nord Stream 2 pipeline. So we shouldn't preclude that there are other things going on here. And perhaps this marks a shift in the U.S. position.
So what tools are available for the U.S. at this point to hit back at Russia if we do see an escalation or, in fact, an invasion?
I think the tools in the U.S. arsenal, the so-called nuclear option, is cutting Russia off of the SWIFT system, which would essentially cut Russia off of much U.S.-involved transactions. Obviously, the U.S. Has a huge control over the world financial market and various trade and banking options. So that, of course, would inflict some serious damage to Russia. But as I said yesterday, I do think that there is a blowback to that, and that's, of course, the idea that Russia is already under a number of sanctions. Many countries operating in the world under sanctions, still doing business, and cutting off one of the world's top economies could actually encourage the development of alternative systems. So while there is significant U.S. leverage there, I think that there's also a chance for that to sort of blow up in the West's face. So I think that Russia is very much aware that it has both of those cards in its hands right now.
All right, we'll leave it there. Tom O'Connor joining us from Staten Island, New York. Tom, thank you.